Welcome to the 49ers Camelot Show. It's Rams week, and we all know what that means. One of the great 49ers rivals, the LA Rams, who at one point moved to St. Louis, won a Super Bowl, and came back to Los Angeles, won another Super Bowl, and that's one of the reasons why we hate them, because they knocked the 49ers out of the playoffs just a couple of years ago. I'm joined by Rams content creator. I'm used to saying 49ers content creator, but one of the Rams content creators, Brian Joanou. Brian, what's up?
What's going on, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this game. Just happy that the season's begun, and excited to see what happens. For not just for the 49ers, but just in general, league-wide, NFC West-wise. It's going to be a fun year. You guys had a big win last week.
Yeah, man. I think everybody was expecting us to be like tanking for Caleb or something, but I never quite felt that way personally.
Yeah, please don't. I don't want to see him in the NFC West. I'm hoping that the Cardinals don't end up with him, because that kid's really good. I'm an Oklahoma fan, so I got to watch him play as a freshman, and then the coach left and he followed, and so now I'm kind of bitter, but he still is a special talent. Well, let's jump in and talk 49ers Rams. Before last Sunday, I know that you mentioned that people expected the Rams to not be that good this year. Before last Sunday, what were your expectations, especially without Cooper Kupp for at least 4 games?
I mean, the Cooper Kupp thing hurt, obviously. He's a big-time target, a big-time playmaker. But really, without Cooper Kupp in general, I thought the offense was going to be much improved compared to last year. I thought the offensive line was pieced together a little bit better than last year, and I think that was a main caveat of what started the issues last year. Matthew Stafford coming back a hell of a lot more healthy than he was last year. Mm-hmm. His elbow feeling good. He's coming back rejuiced, ready to go out there and prove some things. So I thought offensively we would be pretty good and put up some points. The defense was kind of where I kind of threw my hands up and said, well, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be ugly.
Especially when you lose a great corner like what you lost this year, that seemed to be an area that the Rams might have trouble with. But I saw that Akello Witherspoon is there, and of course he played for the 49ers. Did he get hurt on Sunday?
He took a cheap shot from DK Metcalf.
That's not surprising.
He's going to be all right. I haven't looked at the injury report yet, but I think he got like a bruised rib or something. DK came from behind and just smashed him.
Yeah, those Seattle guys are cheap. Yeah, I bet he's going to play, because he's going to want to play and he's going to want to show up against his former team, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
Especially because when he was last with the 49ers, he actually got benched. He was in 2019, he was the starter for much of the season. Actually had a pick 6 in the first game of the season, I believe, against the Bucs. And then as the season went on, he wasn't performing as well, and then Emmanuel Mosley replaced him. So I'm sure he'd love to stick it to the 49ers. But let me ask you, back on the offense, the Rams had 2 receivers go over 100 yards on Sunday. Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua, both had 119 yards receiving. Nacua, this was crazy to me. He had 10 catches, 15 targets. Does Matthew Stafford trust him that much, or is he running plays that maybe Cooper Kupp would have been running? Like, what? How did that come about?
I mean, I definitely think he's kind of in that same kind of mold as the Cooper Kupp. If you look at Puka in college, he was big time carrier of that offense. I think, what was it, Reed was his quarterback. I think I saw some stats where in games where Puka played and where he wasn't injured, that's where the majority of Reed's 300-yard passing games came from. So, the kid can play. I think the issue with him was if he could stay healthy or not, because he's had some injury troubles. But I watched him in training camp. I've followed him for a while, and there was no doubt in my mind that he could go out there and go create. It was just more of a, when was he going to get the opportunity? Because I know McVay doesn't necessarily like to throw the young guys out there to the fire right away.
Sure.
So I think Cooper Kupp going down actually kind of was a blessing in disguise, because now you see what you have with Puka. Tutu, I don't think a lot of people saw him coming, but I mean, the kid's fast. He's lightning fast. So if he gets a release from the line, I mean, good luck staying with him. So that's why he's getting open. You throw the two of those together. Van Jefferson had a tough day, obviously. Dropped a wide open pass that could have been a touchdown. But you throw those guys in, and then you get Cooper Kupp back, hopefully week 5. I don't know. We're not really sure what's going on with that hamstring. But I think Matthew Stafford made a connection with Puka in general very early in camp, like going back to OTAs. And, Matthew Stafford, when he makes a connection with a wide receiver, we've seen it with Kupp, we've seen it with Megatron. He will go to those guys if he trusts them.
Yeah. And then Higbee had a pretty good game. I think I saw 3 catches for like 49 yards or something like that. So the Rams still have some weapons on offense.
Right.
Stafford has some guys that he can toss it to. And so for those that are saying this is going to be a blowout, it's not even going to be close, I'm not one of those, because I think that McVay is really creative. He's a really good coach. He's got a great quarterback, and that quarterback still has some weapons. So I'm not one of those that's going to say this isn't going to be close. So let me ask you this. Were the Seahawks really that bad, or are the Rams better than everybody expected that they were going to be?
That's a tough question. The one big concern I saw with the Rams was probably stopping the run. And, early in the game, they ran the ball a little bit. They weren't, running down the throat or anything, but they were getting some success on the ground. I actually was not as concerned about the secondary as most people were. I thought we had some good young corners, and along with Witherspoon, who's going to step in. And, they were moving the ball on us in the first half. They got 13 points. I mean, it wasn't like they weren't moving the ball. But then that second half happened, man, and we just clamped. I mean, going into the last play of the game, we gave up 3 total yards of offense.
Wow.
So I think maybe it's a little bit of both. I think I already kind of had this feeling that Geno wasn't who we thought he was. He's going to have that regression. You kind of saw it towards the end of last season. So, you get a little bit of pressure in Geno's face and he folds.
Yeah.
So I could see it being Seahawks not as good and the Rams being a lot better than people thought.
Okay.
Well, combination, yeah.
Well, speaking of good, Aaron Donald is really good, and he's been really good for a long time. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's talked about retiring. How much longer do you think he's going to play?
That's a great question. You see where he thinks about retiring 2 years ago after the Super Bowl. You see where this offseason he thinks about retiring. I never thought for a second he was going to retire this offseason. I thought, he would not want to go out that way. He wouldn't want to leave due to injury. He wouldn't want to leave when the team was bad. So, I really see a 2 to 3 year window, to be honest with you. And I could say the same thing about Coach McVay. I could say the same thing about Cooper Kupp. I could say the same thing about Matthew Stafford. I think they really got this core of guys that are, towards the twilight of their career that I think are really going to give it a go 2 to 3 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely a couple of years ago really put it together and won the whole thing, came back last season, and it's hard to repeat in the NFL, and it's hard to come back and, which makes what the Chiefs have done even more impressive because they've been able to stay right up there. What is your biggest concern when it comes to facing the 49ers as a Rams fan? What is your biggest concern?
I think it goes back to what my concern with the Seahawks was. I think that stopping the run, I think our D line isn't as big as in past years. I think we have some very young outside linebackers. And if we don't set the edge against them, you guys are going to run on us all day long. So I think my biggest concern is setting the edge, to be honest with you.
And this, I think I saw today, I knew that the Rams had not yet faced Brock Purdy.
Yep.
But I saw today that this will be the first time that the Rams will face the 49ers when they have Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey in the same lineup. Because last year when they faced Deebo, McCaffrey wasn't on the team yet. He was still in Carolina. And when they faced McCaffrey, Deebo was out that game. So this is going to be the first time that they've played the 49ers with those two guys, and they're so interchangeable. You know, Deebo will be in the backfield, and McCaffrey will line up in the slot or wide or whatever, and then maybe they'll switch it up. So what do you think about facing those two? And then, of course, you have Brandon Ayuk on the outside, which is the best route runner of all of them. Any concern with you talked about the run, but any concern with that passing game?
I mean, you got to match up, right? My concern with those guys, obviously, if you get McCaffrey or Deebo against a linebacker, they're going to win that matchup probably 95% of the time, right? Ayuk, obviously, he's a good route runner. He's actually starting to prove himself, you know, of his lofty draft status and whatnot. I don't know that them on the field at the same time is scary. I think what I've seen with both of them, and especially against the Rams, is there'll be some sort of pitch play where either McCaffrey or Deebo has thrown for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's happened with both of them, if I remember correctly. I think McCaffrey did it on the first game he came against us.
Yep.
That concerns me a little bit, you know, just having such a young secondary unit, having that integrity to stay with your guy when you see a run play. That concerns me a bit. But, you know, the Rams are running a different defense than they were running last year. Last year, they were running a lot of soft zones, or even the year of the Super Bowl, they were running a lot of soft zones. They were keeping it in front of them. And what I saw last week was, hey, we got some young athletic guys. Let's go up there and press. Let's go up there and send some blitzes. Like, they were completely different scheme than we've seen in past years.
Okay.
So it just shows that they're not afraid to change things up. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how the 49ers react to that, because I'm sure they're used to seeing the same thing over and over again with the Rams. Although, you know, Purdy's never played against them. But in general, you know, like, I can tell you when Jimmy G was back there, I would sit back and go, oh, God, here comes another slant. Here comes another slant, you know?
That's about all he can throw. So,
and we were giving them to him too at the same time. So, yeah, I don't see us doing that exactly in that kind of. So it'll be a fun matchup just to see how that works. And, you know, anytime you got player makers out there, they're going to make plays, but, you know, just got to limit it.
If you were a 49ers fan, what would you be concerned about? So, like, for me, coming into this game, what should I be watching for that should make me nervous and think, okay, we have to stop this?
I don't know if I'm nervous about it, but, you know, in past, the Rams have been a very stretch run type of team. What I saw in week one was a lot of the same plays you guys run, a lot of traps inside, a lot of trying to play bully ball, you know, with our run game. So I don't know. I might be a little bit concerned that everything I've studied on tape isn't going to be necessarily out there, you know, the same exact. I would be concerned if I gave Matthew Stafford time, because as you see with time, he can tear down a defense. That's what I'd be concerned about.
Right. Yeah, that definitely would be my concern when the Rams have the ball, is is Matthew Stafford. The 49ers usually do pretty well against the run.
Right.
But
That's
the
why
pass,
I wasn't really,
yeah, that would definitely be my top concern. My second concern, obviously, is Aaron Donald. I mean, trying to block that guy is just no easy feat. And the right side of the 49ers offensive line is young and unproven.
Okay.
And last week, they didn't fare so well against TJ Watt,
Right.
which nobody does. That guy is incredible. But Aaron Donald is equally as incredible. So that's a concern for sure. Are you more concerned? You talked about being concerned about the running game, but are you more? Well, let me ask it different. So you're more concerned with the 49ers running game than necessarily the passing game. But which do you think will give the Rams more trouble, the running game or the passing game?
I think, if I was the Niners, I would run the ball until we proved that we couldn't stop it. Like, I don't know, it was, 2 years ago where you guys like ran the ball like 15 straight times down our throat and scored a touchdown, like a 12-minute drive or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would concern me. That's where, if I was the Niners, that's what I would go after to see if we could prove that we could stop the run. The pass, I mean, I don't know, man. I watch Brock Purdy, and it's not that I'm not sold on him. I just don't see him getting a lot of pressure. So,
he did on Sunday. He was pressured a lot. He was sacked 3 times by TJ Watt. So the Steelers put some pressure on him. He's pretty evasive. I mean, he's really good at taking little steps and creating, finding these avenues and so. But yeah, I think I probably would agree that if the Rams have trouble with the 49ers offense, it likely will be the that running game. So we talked about how this is the first time that the Rams have faced Brock Purdy.
Yep.
What do you think that they're going to try to do to rattle him? Is it going to be pressure, or are they going to try and disguise some things? Because he is still a young player that hasn't had too terribly many starts. How do you think they're going to approach him?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When you're going against a TJ Watt or any great pass rusher, they're usually coming from the outside, right? I think quarterbacks in general, and Tom Brady is another guy, you bring pressure up the middle, it just affects you differently. And that's where the Aaron Donald effect comes in, because when that guy's coming right up the middle, I don't know if you saw the clip when he was coming up the middle on like a stunt against the Seahawks last week, and he came free running at Geno Smith. You hear Geno Smith, as he's throwing the ball away, saying, "Oh my God." It's just different when you see a guy like that coming at you straight forward. It's like, where do you step, right? Whereas, like, if it's coming from the side, you can step up or you can roll back around or whatever it may be. When it's coming right at you, man, sometimes it's like you don't have a choice.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's how you rattle him. I think you just get up in his face where he has nowhere to step up.
Yeah, and where's he going to line up most? Is it going to be over the right guard? Is that where he is going to be most of the time?
I mean, I would assume, but man,
I know he moves around some.
I was going to say he moves around a lot, so
okay,
he'll be right over the guard, but a lot of times he'll move. If he sees a matchup that he's going to win, they'll move him. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see that chess game right there of how they do that. And if I'm the Niners, I'm running right at him.
Oh, so you'd run at him instead of away from him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, because he gets such a quick step up field that you could almost let him go past.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I know that he moves around. If I was Aaron Donald, I think I would line up over the right guard and just camp out there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be his easiest matchup along that 49ers offensive line.
Right.
He could go out to the right tackle, but then he's not inside where he's as close to the ball.
Yeah.
So the 49ers defense probably is the best in the league. I mean, that remains to be seen as far as the season, but they were the best in the league last year.
Yep.
On Sunday, they showed that they hadn't slacked off any. How do you attack this defense? Because now they have Javon Hargrave in the middle next to Eric Armstead, and that's something that they didn't have the last couple of years. That when they traded away DeForest Buckner, they lost that complement to Armstead and Bosa, that person in the middle of those two that created a lot of pressure in the middle like Aaron Donald does. But now with Hargrave, he and Armstead collapsed the pocket for most of the game on Sunday. How do you attack this defense?
Well, I mean, the Niners are an aggressive defense. So, you have to, for one, you need to get positive plays on first down. So I don't care if it's 3 yards, 4 yards. You have to put yourself into a positive game script. Because if you're just dropping back and you get a sack or incompletion, you're just setting the Niners up for what they want to do. So you need to make sure you are creative and maybe use some of that aggression against them. I mean, whether it be a quick screen pass or whatever it may be, if they're all lined up and coming hard to the left, if like the touchdown that Cam Akers scored, a little flip out to the right, things to keep them off balance, rollouts, you name it.
Most of the teams that have more success against that defense tend to get the ball out quickly.
Right.
Is that part of the Rams game plan on a normal offensive day, or do they take longer, deeper drops and have longer developing plays?
I think it depends on who they're playing. I think against the Seahawks, the longer developing plays for sure. I think against the Niners, they know they need to get that ball out, like you've seen it in the past. I think that the deeper drops really could get them in trouble. So I would expect some quick dink and dunks, especially to start the game. Tyler Higbee getting involved, Puka Nacua getting involved, just getting the ball out, maybe getting those running backs involved. Kyron Williams is looking nice. I think he's a pretty good pass catching back that not a lot of people have seen in the NFL yet, unless you watched him over in Notre Dame.
What do the Rams need to do to win this game? If you were to lay out their 3 or 4 key things that they have to do to win this game, what would those be?
Score early. Definitely need to get, some sort of positive momentum, get a score on the board. Don't get down early. But keep everything in front of them. Like, the defense just needs to not give up big plays. They need to, if the Niners are going to play ball controlled offense, they're going to have to, make them earn every yard. So, if you make them earn every yard, mistakes happen. Aaron Donald gets free. You never know. Like, things happen the longer a drive goes, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to muck up the game a little bit. They're gonna have to make the drives long, and they're gonna have to find a way to get a little ball control offense themselves. So whether that be a quick 5-yard out, quick little, tight end screen, whatever it may be, just to keep that moving and just to keep the defense guessing. But I tell you what, I mean, if this game's like 13-13 going into the fourth, I wouldn't bet against us.
How long have you been a Rams fan?
I have been a Rams fan since the first quarterback I remember was Jim Everett.
Okay, so quite a while.
Me
then.
Personally, I mean, I would tell you I was probably a Rams fan before that, but as a kid growing up, that's the first one I remember like vividly. Yeah.
Okay.
So early 80s. Like
so back then,
somewhere there.
Right. So that was the question. The direction I was going with that is I was wondering if you were a St. Louis Rams fan, or so when they left LA and went to St. Louis, you stuck with them throughout that time, and then they came back. How happy were you when they returned to LA?
So I grew up on the Central Coast of California. So I grew up around more Niner fans than I did Rams fans, to be honest with you. So um, it wasn't like the games were in my backyard. It wasn't like they were playing the games on TV all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
them going to St. Louis wasn't, other than the fact that it hurt me that they weren't around, it
Yeah.
wasn't harder to watch the games by any means. I always kind of held out hope that they would move back. I always kind of just had this idea in my head, and I started like really putting pieces together a few years before it happened. I saw the lease, the way it was set up, and where they had to be a top tier stadium, at 20 years. I think at 10 years, somebody just signed off on it, but at 20 years, or 25, whatever it was, kind of saw the writing on the wall. And then I saw, the ownership change, where Georgia dies, gives it to the kids, they can't afford it. And then here comes Stan. And it's just like, Stan just made a bid for the Dodgers as well. It's like, he's not against going to LA.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really stoked. I think I cried a tear of joy when I was just staring at Twitter all morning, waiting for the votes to come down.
If you had to take one of your Super Bowl teams, are you taking the 2021 team, or are you taking the greatest show on turf?
As far as being better?
Yeah, or your favorite?
I mean, they're both in my heart forever. They're both, but that greatest show on turf team, I mean, they came out of nowhere. No one expected them to do a damn thing that season.
Mm-hmm.
And, Kurt Warner bagging groceries. We went out and signed Trent, to go be the guy, and he hurts his knee in the third preseason game. And Isaac Bruce was just a beast. Torrey Holt's rookie year, that was just such a fun team.
Yeah.
And no one talks about that they were a top 5 defense on top of it, with London Fletcher holding it down in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I really had to pick a team, I think that would be the one. There's just too many fun storylines, just too fun of a season, too unexpected. Like, I'm not saying people expected the Rams to win it 2 years ago, but they did not expect them to win it either.
Yeah. Which quarterback are you taking? Matthew Stafford or Kurt Warner?
All time?
Just as a Rams fan.
I think I don't get me wrong. I love Matthew. I've always been a big fan of him since the time he was in Detroit, coming out of Georgia. When I saw there was an opportunity we could trade for him, and the trade went down, I ran laps around my living room. But I think I would still take Kurt Warner. I mean, what he did was special. It was just absolutely special. Now, I think that Matthew might be a more talented quarterback. I just don't think he ever got the opportunities that Kurt got.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either of them. Here's the tough one. Marshall Faulk or Eric Dickerson?
Oh, can I say Steven Jackson?
Really? You would pick Steven Jackson over both?
Steven Jackson, man. 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons on absolutely abysmal teams that couldn't pass the ball, and you knew he was the only guy that was on the offense. And he still went out there and just put up number after number after number on really bad teams.
Wow. That surprises me. The other two are Hall of Famers.
Jackson should be.
Yeah, and maybe someday he will be. That one surprised me. You told me that you're going to the game on Sunday, so let me ask you this controversial question.
Okay.
Will there be more 49ers fans there or more Rams fans there?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with price point, to be honest with you. And I don't say this, I'm not trying to poke at your fan base, but your fan base, when you're good, you guys show up, and when you're bad, you go hide Homer Simpson, right? Right now, you guys have been good for a few years, and it's like you guys show up everywhere. And it seems like the price point isn't an issue, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of Rams fans, when we were in the Coliseum, it was an affordable ticket. There was no season license. There wasn't a bunch of investors buying the tickets and, trying to make huge profits on it. So this being the opener and the Niners still being pretty good, I think it's going to be close to 50-50, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That's my guess.
When the 49ers are good, they pack out the stadium. They travel extremely well.
Right.
When they're bad, they lease out planes and fly over the stadium with banners that say "Fire Jed York."
Right.
You can't really fire the owner. But here's another question: can you do something about that Whose House guy? That dude drives me crazy. And when I watch TV, when I watch it on TV, it comes through like Whose House. It's so annoying. Can you do anything? Do Rams fans like that guy, or is he annoying to even your own fans?
Sam Lagana is a really, really nice guy. Let me preface this. He's really tall too. If you see him, you see him. Trust me. Like, I don't like the chant personally. I think it's kind of lame. I think it sounds very cheesy. But there is a lot of fans that just get into it and do it. So I'm not gonna down it. It's not for me personally. I wish we could get a little bit more creative. I wish our marketing department could get a little bit more creative in general. But yeah, if you guys can come up with a better chant for us and maybe just leave it in the suggestion box, that would be great. Yeah. Because it's not my favorite either.
Yeah. Well, you got an incredibly nice stadium, so I know that everybody that goes there is blown away by it. So
yeah,
you do have that. Last question. Yep. How do you see this game unfolding?
I see a couple real quick scores. I don't know who's going to get them. I just know that something's going to happen real fast in this game. I think one of the two teams is going to get off to a really hot start. And then I think it's going to become a dogfight. And I could tell you by the end of the third quarter, I think it will be within 8 to 9 points.
Okay.
And then at that point, who's healthy, who's not. I don't know what the offensive line is going to look like. I don't know what the defense is going to look like. But I could still see this game being a one-score game when it comes down to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the 49ers are 8.5 points, 7.5 points, something like that. But, yeah I would expect it to be a one-score game either way.
Right.
So, hey, Brian, thanks so much for joining me. Tell everybody where we can find you and find what you're doing.
You can find me in my house. Whose house? Oh, my. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's bad.
I had to do it. Brian81277 at Twitter is my handle. I'm also doing a show called Rams Uncensored with my co-host Tommy Avance. I think we're going to start doing it on the PSN network probably in the next week or so.
Okay.
We're just kind of waiting for the Android app to go live so that we could jump on there. But yeah, we're all over the timeline on Twitter nonstop.
Are you talking about the PSF app?
Oh, PSF. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're one of the Rams media casters on there, and I'm one of the 49ers media casters as well. Right. So go check out Brian at on Twitter. Find him on YouTube. And on the PSF app, if you haven't downloaded that, go ahead and do that. It's now available on iPhone, Apple, Android, all of those. So go check that out. And thanks so much for joining us and for watching. It's going to be a great game, so let's have fun with it on Sunday.